Bea Udeh. How lovely.
That's so natural, Anne. There's a...
Don't spoil the
No,
illusion.
no, it's okay. It's okay. It's all in the take. It's all in the edit, Anne. Let me tell you that now.
Don't be doing that. I'm only learning editing now. I know you're a consummate professional, but me, I'm like at home going, oh my God, stop talking. Thank you for coming into my shed. I'm very happy to have you here.
Hey, good to see you.
It's very good to see you. I am concerned that we are going to talk and talk and talk, but hey, we'll see how it goes.
Yeah, definitely.
I got you because you created this lovely book with me.
I did.
Who was the name of the wonderful illustrator? Amanda Williams, who did the amazing illustration. You've got a copy as well. There's loads. We started talking before. There's loads. But
there's loads.
To know why was it important to you to make a book, and why in the shed?
I write all the time. I'm writing all the time. I'm writing creatively. I'm writing practically. I'm writing non-fiction. I'm commentating on life. I'm looking at social justice issues. I'm looking at parenting. I'm looking at observing life around me. I take things from nature and I try and document. I also feel that my memory is not very strong, and I think from the age of maybe 10 or 12 or something, I always felt that I had a really bad memory, and that was one of the reasons why I felt that I could never become a professional at anything or become a writer even, because I felt that my memory, I didn't have this memory, and if I can't have a memory, that means I'm not going to be able to retain knowledge and spurt it out like this expert. And people who are learned and who write books, and they can do that. So for me, it's about documenting. I had to write this book because it's about documenting a moment in time, and all of my words that are in there span of quite a few years, maybe 7 years of content in there from my part. I'm now 48, and it spans about 7-8 years of content. Some new, some has been edited, some have been brought up to date. But I write so that I can document and so that I can look back and remember things. I'm really bad at geography. I only remember things because I've written it down or turned it into something that is creative kind of thing, whether it is a doodle or a picture or words or poetry or prose. So that's how I can write about Nigeria, which is my heritage, which is my motherland. For me, it's about documenting my history in a way that is creative, and I will be able to look at that in the future and say, yeah, or going to Cromer Beach in the east, which is near Norfolk, and basically saying, right, this is where I was with my family and we had a really interesting, beautiful time. So I document those things, and it's important for me, but it's also so that other people can dip into it, take it and chew it, and have a sense of their own person, their own person. So it's like, I want you to know a little bit about me, but I'm hoping that you can find a little bit of yourself in my words. You can find a little bit of your history or your actuality in the words that I've put down there. So, that's it in a kind of a nutshell.
Boom, job done then, because I found myself, I felt I knew Bea when I was working on it, when I read it, when I look at it now, and I certainly found bits of me in there. And it seems very simple and straightforward, so it allowed me breathing space to get hold of those stories. And I don't know, we worked very hard on the layout, we worked very hard on you were very specific about the size. I felt like when I look at it now, it's terrible on this thing, you can't really there's so much white space in there for me to move around in as a reader. And job done, Bea Udeh, job done. Why?
Thank you. I mean, the white space is, you know, I want to, yeah, thank you. Yeah, I mean, because I think the other part of that question that I have not answered is why Big White Shed? And I think for me, as an Anglo-Nigerian woman living in Derby, I always tussle with myself as to who is authentic, who will provide me with an authentic space for me to be myself, who understands me, who gets me, who is there that can guide me without judgment. And I felt that having worked with you in the past and having worked with you and knowing your style and your personality and your gung-ho-ness and wisdom, it just vibes with my energy and my rhythm. And I really wanted to be able to work with somebody like you who could do that. I always tussle in terms of looking at, do I work with Caucasian people or do I work with Black people, people of African and Caribbean heritage right here in order to be able to put a stamp down on who I am, a marker in the sand. And I do that because of the is it liberty? I don't know if that's the right word, but the liberty that is allowed, that is afforded to publishers who have the power to change the narrative, who have to teachers who have the power to include the narrative, to parents who have the power to give their children voice and allow them to develop their own voice by listening to their own inner child. So that's why I came, you know, I'd been thinking about writing this book for like 3-4 years before I came to you. And I'd been tussling between you and, you know, other potential people. And it was like, actually, I know you're more or less on my doorstep in the East Midlands, and therefore I'm going to work. I want to work with you, and I'm so glad that you accepted. And, you know, I don't know if you thought I was being serious or not when I first approached you, but yeah, I'm honoured that you took me on and took on the project, because I know that there were new things that we both learned, and you learned stuff as a editor, and I did too.
Loads of learning, but that's the whole point of doing what I'm doing. I've never pretended to be like, I'm joking about the editing, I ain't got a clue, Bea, but that's not going to stop me from putting little films out there. Yeah, when you said you wanted illustrations throughout, I was like, what? But we did it. We bloody did it, and I learned, and it's worked, and I felt really chuffed that you trusted me. And I had, funnily enough, I was talking to Neil Pike yesterday, and when Neil first talked about doing a book, I said to him, you do know, don't you, that some publishers would snatch you up because you're disabled, and that would give you a bigger platform and you'd reach a wider audience. And he went away and thought about it and came back and went, nah, I just want to be Neil. So let's do it.
Yeah.
So that whole, it's really interesting with Big White Shed that it's predominantly men who have stepped forward and said, will you publish my book? And that's something I've struggled with, because it's like, should I be actively recruiting female writers, gay writers, Black writers? And then I think, no, I'm just going to wait. I've built it. You know that movie, if you build it, they will come.
Yeah.
They will come. I don't know if that's the right way to do it. I don't know. But to have your stories in the shed was so exciting and so like a breath of fresh air, because it looks like a children's book. You want people to colour it in, don't you? We chose the paper so that people could draw and doodle and colour in.
Yeah, we tested the paper to make sure that it was thick enough. Do you know what I mean?
And the cover, that's why it's black and white, so people can colour it in if they want. But it's jam-packed with history and layers, and yeah, I love
Yeah.
it.
And it's relevant to now because we're in lockdown. We're you know, at home, and we are looking at what's going on in the world, and all of it for me is so relevant. From, you know, no hard feelings, which is for me about looking at mental health, but from a male perspective, and how you are working with your children, dealing with your children, homeschooling them, um, and also looking at different kind of the different contexts of being like daughter, which is the head one, the lead poem in the book. And that for me again looks at how I look at how I am the eldest daughter, and I am looking at how my Nigerian heritage is, you know, being a mother is not easy. Bearing children is not easy. And when I look at the fact that we have lots of people who do not know the joys and the pains of caring for a child, and then suddenly you're in lockdown and suddenly you have to look after this child, it's like, okay, let's breathe into this. Let's breathe into this poem. And again, I'm looking at the which one was it? The one that I did about concrete, the poem. And I didn't know that so many things that are happening now would again come out in there. And I look at the last stanza, which is about I seek truth and justice in poetry, reconnecting lost rhythms with rainbows, yet avoiding sharing a talk with my African British sons as they transition into tomorrow's gentlemen. And that for me is like, wow, that's where we are right now. We have got people who we got black boys transitioning to men. We have got people who are putting knees on necks and killing, you know, and we have police people who have power and position who are abusing that power, especially when they are white policemen and doing this to black people, especially black men. And look in the context of that as, and we all, I see us all as parents, every single human being as a parent, and having to realize that if we all look at ourselves of having a child, or specifically having a black child, then you will understand or begin to have a bit of empathy about, if you are Caucasian and you have a black child, let alone I am black and I have a black child, the things that you do when you're raising that child, what kind of questions you're asking about, how do I look after you or your hair? Are you listening to that black child? Are you asking them questions about how to maintain their skin? Are you asking them how they feel in certain situations because of the inherent socialized prejudices that come with how we have lived in an infrastructure that doesn't make sense today during COVID and as we come out of lockdown kind of thing. So I found a lot of the poems I've written are so relevant to what we're going through right now. And I just feel, you know, I don't feel like a prophet, but you know, I'm just ready to keep talking my truth in the mornings on Facebook Live and Instagram, and talking about, you know, kind of radical self-care, and in a poetic or prose type of way, just trying to bring the message out to the masses, or to the little 10 people who might listen, and so that they can begin to understand that we all have a voice and we can all do something, whether we're writing something or writing to an MP or sharing a piece of history that is balanced in a educational context and in an informative way as well, without judging people. And like you didn't judge me when I approached you to be the publisher for Dream Drops and Doodles and Ochra, I don't expect for people to judge anyone. I expect them to listen, just listen and find out. Listen to your black child. That is, I suppose, the rhetoric that kind of weaves across my life right now, and is stemming from the ochra in the book as well, because the ochra does stand for not just being a healthy vegetable that you can put in different types of dishes, but it stands for um, the places I've been to where I've seen okra grow. I've been to Nigeria, I've been to Japan, I've been to Tobago, and I've tried okra in all of those places. and they're cooked in different ways or consumed in different ways. And it's about opening our eyes to other cultures and other ways of being.
Would you share a poem with us? Whether it's from the book or something you've written recently or something from your heart?
I'm going to share something from the book. And this one, My Uncle Chukuma. This was delivered at my uncle's memorial. And he was born in April, just like me. But anyway, let's go. My Uncle Chukuma. God knows. You know him too. We know him and what he stood for. We are market people from Umuaha. Very simply translated, Umu people, Ahia markets. We love people, talking to them, working alongside and sharing with them. We know how to work hard. He loved to work hard. I once had an uncle who showed me how to work hard, hustle. We hustle to live, to get ahead, to progress. We work hard at the hustle. Some of us might remember him or an uncle like him. He came to live with us for a little while or two when I was a child growing up. His middle name was Osondu. Run for your life. God knows. My Uncle Chukuma. A market man from the east of Nigeria who left us unexpectedly at the age of 56 on the 29th of March, traveling from his family home in Lagos on a bus going to the east. Back home, he leaves who will remember him dearly from 23 years down to 11. I didn't know him, but it has been good to find out about him, to share our memories and knowledge about him. This research has brought 3 generations closer together, even if for one day.
Thanks, Bea.
Yes.
So, you mentioned something before you did that lovely poem about radical self-care.
Yeah.
And it seems to me that there's no way I can separate the different parts of Bea out. You're like, it's all that jigsaw is firmly fixed, like the Rubik's Cube. I can't move it from where it is. So
Yeah.
speak to me of radical self-care.
I've only discovered the term in the past 2 or 3 weeks because I was listening to activist and writer and ex-Black Panther member Angela Davis, and she was talking to another activist and poet. I think her name was, I don't know if it was Nikki something, and they did a recent Zoom with a Black female organization, which was to do with, I think it was called Black Girl Trek or Girls Trek or something like that. And watching their conversation, and these women are now in their 60s, do you know what I mean? And 60s and 70s, and they are still vibrant and full of energy and still full of purpose. And the young women who were young women, you know, they're in their 30s, interviewing them were obviously girl crushing as well, and asking advice. And there was even a question that came out like, you know, Angela Davis, what do you do to maintain your hair? And, you know, for Angela Davis, it was like, do you know what? That's not what we're here for. We're not here for that. We're not here for that. We're here to just tell you that you now have the baton handed to you. You, with the stuff that you're doing, I'm impressed with you and your organization and what you stand for. You don't need to worry about what kind of water I'm using to wash my hair. We are here to create change in ourselves. So if we can look after ourselves, and in terms of looking after yourself, in terms of radical self-care, it's about being able to say to yourself, if you cannot look after yourself, love your body, love what's in your mind, and I think especially as Black women, and if we're looking at how women existed Black women existed before slavery, and Black women existed as women who came to the table and the space, and they look after everybody else when they're looking after the children, they're looking after the men, they're looking after the village. Do you understand? And so the Black women will always come out and look after things and the people and the crops and the day, and they organize. Women are organizing in themselves. But when I look at the journey and the story of Black women through the ages, over the centuries, there's always a theme of them having to pick up, and yet they also seem to be the people who are violated and who have had to close their mouth and just accept what has happened. So when you look at prehistory, or not prehistory, but history that is centuries years old, and then you bring it back to what is happening now, I feel that we as women have to really look after what's going on in our heads. There's a lot of guilt, there's a lot of energy that's vibing in the air. I feel energy a lot. And when George Floyd was murdered, I felt an energy I didn't even know. The day I came out to skip the next day, and I skipped in silence. Normally I'm talking to the camera, but the next day I couldn't even talk to the camera, and I didn't even know why. I just felt heavy. And that's not even, I didn't even watch the long video, the 9 minutes, the 8 minutes, 46 seconds. I didn't even watch that video. My sister said, "Oh, B, have you seen the longer?" I said, "No, I ain't seen. I heard a man was killed. I've seen, vague shots there. I'm not going to go in and torture my brain. I'm not going to go and do that violent act of having to repeat watching it and watching it." So for me, knowing the story, knowing about Angela Davis and Audre Lorde, because I think that they muted this back in the 60s and 70s. They said, in terms of being able to act and to positively act and move forward and progress and cause change, and to be able to do that, you need to have the energy and the focus. And that only comes when you kind of, not that you ignore everybody else, but you have to feed yourself with space and meditation and looking after your mind and listening to your soul and feeding yourself with the right foods. You need to look after yourself. It's radical. It's a radical form of self-care before you can therefore go out and face what is happening to the Black man, what's happening to men who are being violated, or things are happening to them in society because of this kind of white supremacist behavior traits that society have taken on, especially Caucasians have taken on, and said, right, that's the right way to treat people. We're going to lord this over you. And therefore, so I think for me as a Black woman, me as an Anglo-Nigerian here sitting in the East Midlands and thinking, yeah, everything's not all right, Jack. It isn't all right. And everybody who's talking to me, that's fine. People who talk to me, you get it. And for some people, you don't get it. The other day I was upset, crying for no reason, because I had information about where I used to work. I used to work in a theatre in Nottingham, and somebody sent me an email, an ex-colleague sent me an email and said, "Oh, this thing going on about it's racist, and do you want to act, do you want to be active in this conversation?" And I was thinking, no, you haven't spoken to me for a long time. A man has just died in a violent way, which has impacted the whole globe in a pandemic. The pandemic has really caused us to really look at ourselves and feel. And for those who cannot feel empathy or can hear the birds and the breeze, as I was saying this morning on my morning skip, if you're not hearing the birds and the breeze, if you're not hearing the buzz of the industrial train, if you're not hearing the cars on the road, and then you're not hearing people crying inside because they have been violated again and again over time with nonsense from like Meghan Markle's time to COVID, BAME, people dying unprecedentedly, to hearing about, nonsense vaccinations that's going to be given. You're hearing all of this stuff. So radical self-care is something, it's something that I am incorporating into my life, trying to do that every day, make it a lifestyle. And I feel that it's something that we all need to partake in. Do you know what I mean? It's almost like raising a toast to yourself every morning and just saying, thanks, I'm alive and I get it and I will do the work.
Yeah, I am hearing this. I hear it in myself. I hear it in other women who are currently working from home and homeschooling and houseworking and cooking and doing all of that stuff. This conflict of doing your job, you know, which is working from home and parenting, and taking something for yourself, however small. It's just, all of it's been going on for so long, for hundreds of years. And we've had conversations online about it where I just think, oh God, is this the time things change? And I don't know. It's a state of change at the moment, I feel. And as a white woman, I feel a huge responsibility to kind of pick up the shopping bags for a while for you. And I don't know if it's enough.
It is enough. It is enough. Anything that everybody can do is enough. As long as everybody's doing it and gets why they're doing it. If you don't get it, then either you're very, very full of toxic hate, or and it's going to be hard to, because there is yin and yang. There is yin and yang, simple as that. There are people who just do not understand why we have to have peace and harmony on the world, and there are people who get it. So
there's people who think we have peace and harmony in the world. They don't see that we don't. Yeah.
Well, that's another thing as well. Yeah, do you know what I mean? And that's what blows the mind, isn't it?
Are you not?
That's what blows the mind.
Yeah. I know there are so many aspects to your life. I know you do. You make, you draw, you skip. I love your skipping. I watch like a voyeur as you skip. I watch you skip in silence, and I've never seen vibrant Bea like that in all the years I've known you. And you have your sheer bee butter line, which it's more than a beauty product, isn't it? It's more an embodiment of you and self-care.
For sure.
Forgetting things. I know I'm forgetting things. You've been a producer. When I first met you, you were producing with Mouthy Poets. You're a kick-ass mum. You're like a soccer mum, aren't you? You're an athletic.
Isn't it?
Yeah.
I like to what's the word? Take up space in a way that makes sense for me, because otherwise I probably disappear down a crack and not be me. And I feel that it's really important for people to really kind of take up space that is authentic, that makes a change in the world. And your world is literally where you're sitting in that little tiny room, or in the toilet, or in the bathroom. It doesn't have to be like, oh my gosh, I'm going to change the whole of Derby and become a politician. No, you know what I mean? It's literally trying to find something that you enjoy doing, or to look at things that give you joy, things that give you joy, and just trying to share that with the world. That's really, really important for me, because I feel like I've got a haiku here actually that I'm going to read out shortly, but I just feel like it's really we're not here for long. We can't, there are some people who are thinking, oh my gosh, the coronavirus, and I'm going to freeze my body so that I can come out the other side and I'll go with some scientist. And do you know what I mean? They want to live forever. And it's like, it's the circle of life, man. It's the circle of life. You are born and you've got a purpose, and then we die. And we need to learn from those moments and not try and hold on to something and turn it into some sort of robot. We're not robots. We're here to encompass, to take up space and to just be. That's what it's about for me. I wrote this haiku because well, hear the haiku. It's called Protected. Outside her womb, noise. She shields her baby from tales. He grows polluted. And I think as women, we need to remember that we are borning and raising the next generation. And I know that things have changed where guys can now give birth, etc. But in terms of looking at how we have evolved and looking at women who are the people who give birth to the planet of beings, we need to remember that the way that we raise our child, I'm raising 3 boys. And so I am very, very conscious of my feminism, you know, my wearing pink in order to in order to remember to balance my energy with the 3 boys and my man. And just, do you know what I mean? I have to remember the power of me, and also not to be small in this environment. And if I raise my boys to ignore the world, or to ignore that we need to be 360, we need to look at life from all angles, we need to be able to ask questions, we need to be able, it's about critical thinking, it's about radical self-care, it's about having empathy.
You said about taking the space, and I think anyone who's seen you perform, and if anyone hasn't seen you perform, and this is over, whatever this is, and when over comes, whenever that is, because every time I've seen you read a poem, you take the space and we watch you and you perform, and you lift your poems off the page and you shake them out and you stand them in front of us and we all walk around them. And it's everything that you've been saying is what you do when you perform. And there's been times when, I know when back in the day in Mouthy Poets, when we'd work on poems, all of us together, and it'd be like, oh yeah, nice poem. And then B would do a roly-poly onto the main stage at the Playhouse with all the people in the audience going, what? Then deliver her poem. So yeah, I think you live and breathe it. And I hear what you're saying about boys. I have 2 boys and 1 girl, and it feels like a huge responsibility to empower them to be good men without bitching at them that, you know, be a good man. It's such a delicate balance.
For sure. For sure. It's a very, very delicate balance. And it's a privilege, I think, for anybody to raise a child. And I think sometimes we ignore our own inner child and listening to that voice and playing with that child, because that's what's going to help us to connect with not just our own children or people who we might foster or take under our wing and mentor or guide. It's about being able to just say, this, it's a real privilege. It's a proper privilege to be able to do these things in the name of parenting or caring for another human being who is making their way up in the world. You can't take that for granted. Some people prefer to look after a Chihuahua dog or those dogs that you put in the handbag. I would prefer to raise a child, a physical child, any day, and learn from them, because as I look at my boys, I learn so much, and they hold a mirror up to me and they tell me about myself. So yeah, I'm in that life.
That comes into Dream Drops and Doodles quite a lot as well, the inner child and parenting the child. And I like what you said earlier about we are all parenting a child just by being part of a community, and it doesn't have to be your child, but if we keep that in our head, that has to be the power to do.
For sure.
Are you Are you writing? Are you documenting? Are you going to do another book? Are you going to do a play? Are you going to do a festival? What are you going to do, Bea?
What am I doing? I am I'm creatively contemplating on Facebook Lives. I skip more or less every weekday, or I do exercise every weekday. If I'm not skipping and talking, skipping my truth into the rope, that is my chance to meditate and creatively share and document where I am right now in this new
Thing.
normal.
New normal.
Am I doing? Anything bigger than that is too much to think about. You know, is it a book? Yeah, could be definitely another book. Is it a film? Yeah, it could be a film. Do you know what I mean? Is it a festival? There's loads that could come in the future, but right now I think it's just about keep skipping my truth and hoping that people can feel that energy, can feel the truth.
I want to carry on talking, but I'm going to have to say thank you for coming in the shed. We're going to have to do it again. We're going to have to do it in a field somewhere.
You know what I mean?
We should have a rally. But
yes.
Thank you so much for coming in the shed. And it's great to see you. And I hope I see you very, very soon.
Definitely.
Bye.
Definitely. Oh, air hugs to you. Thank you. Take care.